As you watched all of that unfold in Pretoria, possibly you'll tell us a sense of deja vu.
Absolutely. I mean, the last time I remember that happening was on the 28th of December in 2008. Speaking to Clady, who I think is, where is he? He's with SAA now, as the spokesperson. He was exasperated, and we've had to phone again, poor Luvuyo Mfaku, to ask him exactly when that decision would be made. And then, you know, going back to the Nicholson days, the Nicholson judgment when Zuma went to court to have those charges set aside, and the general feeling was it was never going to happen. The charges were definitely going to go ahead, and then Nicholson turned everything on its head. So definitely a sense of deja vu, but also a sense of foreboding, knowing that there is such a long road ahead here, from giving time to the first appearance, giving time to prepare, making sure that the prosecuting team is ready with all the evidence, because that was one of the problems in 2008. The final indictment wasn't ready, and there were continuous delays, and so it was struck from the roll. Will Zuma himself launch a permanent stay of prosecution? I see that there's Sean Abrams mentioning an NGO in the Western Cape division launching an application here. I'm very interested to hear, I'd be very interesting to hear what sort of standing they have to launch a permanent stay. So much still to go ahead, all those court appearances, and what will Zuma do to avoid this going to trial, and how much money does he have in his war chest, and how much support does he have in KwaZulu-Natal and in the rest of the country?
Annika, it's Joanne joining the fray at this point, as Jeremy promised a little earlier. To continue and pick up on what you said just a moment ago, I mean, this looks like such a long drawn-out process from a legal point of view. Jacob Zuma is no longer a young man. How is this going to weigh on someone who has just lost the presidency, has lost increasing support, and now finds himself in perhaps what is a legal wilderness too?
You know, over the years when things are, we've certainly seen him looking strained, and there was a time when he was looking very ill. That was the time of the whole poison allegations. I really think it depends on where his ambitions lie, because the former president seems to thrive when there is a challenge, and he seems to thrive when he is again playing the victim. I remember on those court steps he used to sing Mshini Wam and dance with the Tsunami Band and with his supporters with the vigor of a young man. This was 10 years ago, he was 60-something. Maybe the presidency has been hard on him, maybe he's tired, maybe he just wants to go back to Nkandla. But remember, he's still got his son to protect, Duduzane Zuma. We don't know what's going to happen there. And as I understand it, this whole Stalingrad approach, knocking on every door to avoid going to trial, is something that he has been obsessed with. The talks before he stepped down on whether there was any chance that he could get any kind of amnesty, all those stalling mechanisms was all to avoid going to trial and ending up behind bars. And so I think he may just fight this with the vigor and energy of a man who feels he's been wronged, and a man who should never have stepped aside, and a man who is the victim of yet another conspiracy, and he's willing to take this on and fight.
You've spoken interestingly, Annika, about the kind of support he enjoyed in the past when he was in the process of doing that, whatever legal challenge was thrown at him. Given his waning support following his unseating, is it possible that he can continue to fight this battle without the same level of support he enjoyed before?
You know, I remember those 12-car convoys, those big black cars that used to snake along the road from Durban to Pietermaritzburg early in the morning, just before court would be ready to start. And they were, you know, at the courtesy of Zweli Mkhize at the time. He had Zwelinzima Vavi, Julius Malema, who would bring out all their supporters, women who dedicated their lives to going to Zuma court cases, women from rural areas who felt so strongly that he was their man. Remember the Zulu Boy, those very controversial Zulu Boy t-shirts. And former President Jacob Zuma has been quite active in the past few weeks. You know, he's been seen around, he's been at openings, he's been at the registration weekends. He's still got energy in him, and I'd be very interesting to see if there's that sense of slight alarm and anticipation that we saw all those years ago. The razor wire, the police on the Inyalas standing on top of their what looked like Caspers but are now called Inyalas. So whether there's going to be that tension, and I think it really depends on the kind of support and what's going on now behind the scenes in that province.